This won't fall on me. Hi there, I'm Adam Butler. I'm a web developer at this company called SimpleWeb. And I asked one of the guys in the office, I said, could you draw a typical day in our office? This is what he came up with. I think it's quite accurate. We build startups, mostly using the Rubies, and we're hiring, so come speak to me. I was originally going to call this talk Life Hacks, but then I thought you might think I meant shit like this. I don't. What I actually mean is experiments. This is something that I kind of do all of the time. So Winston Churchill once said, to improve is to change, and to perfect is to change often. And so I run myself these little experiments, for example, setting myself challenges, so I change often. So you might remember last year, if you were here, I did a lightning talk on open source every day. There's some sort of weird conference inception going on here, I don't know. And this was the most successful experiment that I'd ever really run. And it lasted 230 days of consecutive contributions to open source. And it was the most productive I've ever been. These are some of the things I worked on in that time. And there was only really one downside from this experiment. I found it really hard to find the time. So this is me at a go-karting place on my own stag party doing open source. And the day that I decided to give it up, so I did it on this day, but it was the last day, was the 13th of June. So if any of you were particularly eagle-eyed, you might have noticed that was my wedding day. The second thing is to test your assumptions. So I do this all the time. I've always had this kind of negative bias about LinkedIn. I mean, it's just full of recruiters, right? So I'm now kind of going through the stage where I'm treating it like it's the best thing ever, posting to it every day and kind of seeing what will happen out of that. I don't know yet. Maybe, just maybe, I can be like one of these people. Have a little bit of fun with these experiments as well, and use it as an opportunity to break the norm. I've recently been replying to spam, for instance. So this chap, he sent me a message, I need your assistance, reply me. So I said, how can I possibly be of help? Reply me. He sent back this long email, but all you really need to know is it's top secret. He's a manager at the African Development Bank. It has an acronym, so you know it's legit. He wants to transfer a huge sum of money, of which I'm going to get 10% off. So I said, this sounds great. When do we get started? P.S. Is the 10% negotiable? So the next thing I know, I'm getting 15% of $2.4 million. And I said, well, that's great, but just $2.4 million hardly seems worth it. I'm waiting to hear back from this person, but a word of wisdom, if you're going to do this, don't do it on your primary email account. Next thing is find some time to travel. I, for one, recently traveled to Skegness. The people of TripAdvisor say it's possibly the worst place in England. But I was determined to go because yeah, it was pretty damn good. Try PHP. You may laugh, but PHP is very progressive these days. So progressive, in fact, that they skip straight over version 6 onto version 7. And you can use this as an opportunity to troll recruiters on LinkedIn as well. Talking of skills, learn new skills. This is me learning to fool elegantly. And get involved with things where you have no right to be in them, like this debate. I don't know. If you want to start doing these experiments of your own, here's a suggestion of how to start. First, draw a line between things you don't know and things you know really well. And then things that you hate to things you love, and just plot out everything that you've got on your mind. And then I suggest you focus on the things in this bottom left corner. Deal with those first, but just generally just try and shift everything over from the left to the right there. And the last point is to be nice. So some of the experiments that I've run have involved me making myself less available to others around me in an attempt to modify their behavior. Basically, I was just being an asshole. Don't do this. Nothing good has come out of these experiments, and they've actually had some longer-term damaging effects. I suggest you don't do this. Be nice, work hard. I've been Adam Butler. Thank you very much.
So I don't really know much about what I'm about to talk about. Some guy on Twitter pointed it out to me the other week, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So I'm hopefully just going to sort of show you hello world with this thing, and hopefully it's interesting and cool, and people might want to check it out as well, because I did, and I thought it was pretty cool. So this thing is called GRPC. It's got a website at grpc.io, and it's something that Google recently open sourced. It's an RPC framework, but it's actually pretty good. I don't know if anyone's used anything to do with like SOAP or any of these things before, but I don't know, just XML. That's all I've got to say about that really. How this thing works is you start off by defining some kind of service in this protocol buffers file. You tell it you're using protocol buffers version 3, name your package something, and then you define a service. Right here we've got a service called hello, and it's got a function on it called say hi. It accepts a person as a parameter and returns a greeting. And under here we've got the definition for our two messages. The person message, which has a name, and the greeting that has a message, which is awesome. So the cool thing about this is all we need to define, really, to define the interface that our service is going to use. And so then we can just do some magical incantations. So there's this horrible command you have to run, and I've just put it in a little file here so I remember how to do it again. But this will take that protocol file and then generate a whole bunch of Ruby code for you. So in the lib folder here, we've got a bunch of Ruby that is generated for us. And if we want to use that, we can make a server really simply here. I've got here a server we just inherit from the generated code and define up the actual method that we're using here, say hi, and we get a bunch of types that we can use that are automatically generated for us as well. So hopefully this should work. Make things loud. If I run the server, that should be working. And then I've written a client as well.
Hello, BathRuby.
And it works. So we basically send from our client a message to the server saying BathRuby, and we've got the message back. The only problem with this really is that I heard that Ruby doesn't really scale very well. And the great thing about GRPC is it actually works with 10 different languages. So I went ahead and did it in Go as well. Go will generate a whole bunch of Go code for us. And the cool thing is we then can just implement the method in the same way we did before. So if we kill off the Ruby server and run the Go one, hopefully the exact same client that we had that we wrote in Ruby should work in exactly the same way.
Hello from Go BathRuby.
Super. So that works. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. The code for my demo I've put up on GitHub, so you can check it out. If anyone's interested in containers and continuous integration and stuff, I'm working on an open source project about that. So come and say hi afterwards. That's me.
To tell you all about something called transcode. Trans what? Yeah, it's those people. And all I'm going to say about this slide is that some trans people are way cooler than others. Not perfect, but cooler. So what is Transcode? Well, Transcode is an organisation that runs hack days around the UK. It develops applications at them for use by trans people, provides networking opportunities for trans people in IT, runs workshops to help trans people gain IT skills. Of course, it comes to conferences like this one. We were at Python UK last year. And it is open to trans and non-binary folk, allies, coders, designers, and visionaries of all sorts, it says in the mission statement on our website. It grew out of similar events in the USA. Why is it necessary? Well, the employment situation for trans people is pretty dire. Even our current government, when they finally decided to take a look, was appalled at the amount of discrimination that trans people face in this country. And IT, the good thing is that it's a bit of a good spot. Lots of trans people get employment here. But there's a reason for that, a historic reason. The HR people, mostly they don't want to employ us. But IT is not customer-facing. So they think to themselves, we can put this person in IT and we're not going to offend any of our customers by employing them. Hey, and it's IT, maybe we could get them to work from home so we won't offend any of our other employees either. So yeah, that's a perfect place to put these people. There is a certain amount of internalized shame as well, that if you hate your body, which many trans people do, if you're subject to constant microaggression from society all of the time, maybe you do want to hide away behind a screen. That, by the way, is an absolutely brilliant book. The trans character is a minor character in it, but it's written by a trans woman. A little bit of personal stuff to ground it. I started programming microcomputers way back before the Apple II. Career progressed as it does, and I ended up as a high-paid economic consultant. And then I transitioned in 1997. I was pretty much unemployable since then. Not totally unemployable. I did have 2 years in Berkeley, California, teaching people to use derivatives valuation software, and that was great. Except the company then got bought out by somebody from the East Coast, and I got all of those signals that Zach was talking about, which means you're about to get fired. So it was. But that was 12 years ago. How have I survived since then? Well, it so happens that an economic model that I wrote in 1991 is still in use and still needs support, and pretty much IT has saved my life. It's a growing problem. The number of people applying to gender clinics in the UK is growing by over 20% a year. Numbers of children being referred to the one clinic in the country growing at an even higher rate. And the Equality Act of 2010 says that discrimination on grounds of gender reassignment is illegal, but as Janet pointed out, legislation doesn't change people's attitudes. It does get better, though. It really does. When I transitioned, the unemployment rate for trans people was around 35%. It's now down to about 11%, which is only twice the rate for the general population. And much of that is down to IT, that people like you are actually helping us. So what's happening with transcode? Well, on April the 23rd, we're having a hack day at the Go Cardless offices in London. Over 50 people already registered, lots of exciting stuff that's going to be going on, and hopefully there will be other events around the country. How can you help? Well, you can certainly come to our events. Allies welcome, remember. You can sponsor events. What we're really in need of is offices where we can hold hack days. Invite us to conferences. Thank you, Simon, wherever you are. Include gender identity in your code of conduct so that trans people know that it's a safe space to come to your conference. Tell people about us. Run trans awareness training at your company and employ trans people because we're awesome. So, here's some contacts. If anybody wants to talk to me during the break, I'll be available. Sadly, I can't stay for the party. I have to rush off to Canada tomorrow and I haven't packed yet. So, that's me.
I kind of listened to everything John said earlier about complexity and adding gems to products, and I kind of ignored it. I think he's wrong. Just quickly, my name's Phil Nash. I'm a developer evangelist for Twilio. We're a communications platform, and you should talk to me about that later. But I think we have a problem in Ruby. I don't think Ruby's cool anymore. And do you know why that seems to be the case? The numbers are just not going up enough. Let me explain. I think it's about Node.js. I think that thinks it's still cool. And it's really NPM. It's making us look bad. It's because, this is the graph of things going on NPM looks like this. It's hockey stick up and to the right. It's everything the startups in California want you to see. But there's actually serious numbers. On Ruby gems, there are 115,566 packages, gems, as of yesterday afternoon. Node has, on NPM, 250,000. RubyGems.org says we've got 7.6 billion downloads ever. NPM is 3.7 billion in the last month. I'm glad I'm not running their servers, because they probably have to do it on Node. But we know why they're doing this, right? It's things like this, the isEven module. Do you know what the isEven module does? It tells you whether a number is even. It's genius. It's so simple. They work with these very small packages, and that's kind of cool. But isEven actually has two dependencies. Is_odd and isNumber. which are both used particularly well within is even. So how, genuinely a thing. So how are we going to make more hockey stick, more growth, more numbers? Well, who in here has built a gem before? That's quite a lot. Who hasn't? Wow, more people have than haven't. That's kind of cool. I think we should build one now. Because it's kind of easy, right? I don't know if you've built one or built one recently, but it's as easy as having Butler and going, Butler gem is even. And this creates ourselves that, so I can then whip into there and Butler install the dependencies, otherwise this doesn't work. You'll see why in a minute. Well, you won't see why. It's actually really simple. There's very little to do. So let's go and implement our function. We have the is even RB, wonderful. So this is actually really easy for us in Ruby because I'm not sure about the API for this, but let's go with that for now. I'll need a parameter, obviously. I suppose you could include this module into something, but it's pretty easy, right? Come on. Come on, Node. You could have had that kind of thing, right? We could do some tests, but I don't know, we're competing with Node, so let's not do that. There's two other things I need to do in order to get this out. One is write a summary and a description. Now I'm going to do the same thing at the same time. Oops, it's going to be a string. If number is even. Cool. And then to do is also not allowed. Things are just not allowed, which is kind of cool. So I don't have a website for this just yet, so we'll just use my website. That's fine. So we've done that. Our gem's written. That's kind of cool. We could test it, I suppose. I'm going to run out of time if we do. So what we do is just gem build is even.gemspec. Wonderful, that's built. With the description and the summary are identical, that's true, but we're not too worried about that. We're just going to push that up. Is even, this is real, you know. Oops, nope. There we go. So we're just deploying this gem right now, and you can go ahead and download and install it again. This is version 0.1.0. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure about the API, so if you're going to do this, check out semver. This is pre-1.0. It could change any time. No! Oh, I see. That was the other thing you have to deal. That's some sort of security thing. We're going to push that. I'm going to go back to the slides just whilst we do that. I do have a serious point about this. Building my first gem helped me learn Ruby, and that was the Bitly gem. And I started with just Rails. I did that the wrong way around kind of thing, and I built the Bitly gem, and now it's had nearly 1 million downloads, and I feel quite amazing about that. Extracting gems from apps reduces repetition over projects, and that led to the enviable gem, which is an environment variable kind of management stuff for development. And finally, creating new gems helps developers use Twilio, helps me do my job, and so I wrote TWIML template, which makes writing TWIML easier, and find out about TWIML from me afterwards. So I think you should build more gems. We should make the numbers go up. We should beat down Node.js. There's a quick disclaimer. I'm not advocating for creative loads of crap stuff, but do make useful stuff. Make gems you'd want to use. Write the tests. No Node.js developers were hurt in the making of this presentation. No Node.js modules were hurt in the making of this presentation, except for maybe their feelings, but they will recover. Ruby is awesome. You are all awesome. Thank you very much.
Wow, there are a lot of you. Okay, so this is me. I'm crowd hailer on the internet in most places. The time is not going, so I might just keep going. Let's start with a quick test. It's late in the day, so that's probably best. What's the return value of each of these methods in Ruby? Okay, so I need everyone to ask. So password, is that secure? B-, is that a pass? Might tell us a bit about you, what you think of that. And January, is that in the winter? Okay, everyone got their answer to that? Okay, in case you didn't get it, we'll have an easier one. Password, is that a pass grade? B-, is that in the winter? And January, well, it might be a secure password, that could work. So the answer is, of course, no method error. But I don't think that's good. So you may have got this, that's fairly obvious, so, you know, hopefully you managed. The reason I don't like it is, well, go back there. So the reason I don't like it is we can think of an answer to all of those. So as humans, we've got that, and programs are for people, and the machine should come secondary. So if we can come up with an answer, I want the language to reflect that. So where are we going wrong? This is my obvious solution to include the winter method. So I think that covers it. There's a few issues with this. We'll just breeze over them and move on. So let's have a look at another alternative. So it says here no method error for no method error undefined method winter for January. But the problem is not that it's an undefined method, but that January is not a string. So that's my. So what should we do instead? Well, we should create a new object, a new month something. Doesn't really matter. It could be a little class. A month concept needs to be put into our program. This is best done as a value object. So a value object is any object whose identity is completely characterized by its attributes. So month would be a value object. Creating January anyway, it's the same January. User is not a value object. So your system should be able to cope with the fact that there could be two users called Steve, and they're not the same user, so not a value object. When to use value objects? Validations, that's where I consider the prime use case for them. If you start duplicating validations, just pass around the object. Make an object instead. So in this case, if something needs a username, pass a username object, and you can't instantiate one if it's not a valid username. Skip over this one. It was a 10-minute lightning talk last time. So to continue the gem conversations we've been having, these are domain objects. So we wanted to introduce the idea of a month into our system. But domain knowledge is unique to your program. So we shouldn't have a gem for this. If there was a month gem, this doesn't work, because whether January is in the winter or not depends on the business that you're writing for. So this was my addition. There isn't a gem for that. Okay, so, oh wow, this timer does pressure you a bit. So if your domain has a string, then its length should be in centimeters. Build on domain concepts and not language constructs. So that's my takeaway for this. This is part of domain-driven design, if you want to read more. There are lots of interesting things about trying to stop being programmers tied to the computer and start being more useful and integrated into the business that you're building with. So that's the end of that one. As a complete aside, the project I'm working on, if you like maps, this is the view of underneath Bath. This is the world upside down. I think it's brilliant. If you don't go to the link. And that's the end of my talk. There you go.